You are used to doing harrowing subjects. You did the Mexican drug cartel. You did American healthcare. What was it about this? How did these guys catch your attention, and how did you commit to and pursue this doc?
So yeah, I was traveling around the world with my last film, Cartel Land, and I was sort of started reading voraciously about what was happening with ISIS and trying to see if there's a film to be made. And eventually I came across this article by David Remnick in the New Yorker about this group, rockets being slaughtered silently. And just right when I read it, I knew that is my way into this story. I reached out to the guys. And, for me, these sort of large, amorphous, sort of complex subjects that we as sort of citizens often keep at arm's length, I think they're so often relegated to headlines and to stats and to photos. And I really, really wanted to try to put a sort of human face to these topics and to try to allow you as audience members to go on this very visceral journey to hopefully have a little bit better understanding of what's, I guess, first and foremost happening in Raqqa, what's happening in Syria, and then I guess in a larger sense, sort of the immigrant experience that these guys were forced into.
Aziz, how did Matt approach you, and what was it about his charming personality that made you decide to work with him on this?
Yes, so it was our first visit to US, and it happened to be with two of my colleagues and I in DC, and we came to receive International Press Freedom Award from CBJ, and we had that crazy schedule. We got an email from one of the organizers, told us that there is a movie director wanna see us. And we had 2 hours like as a break, and we were so tired. We answered, we said, we're tired, we want to sleep. And they said, no, come, you need to come. And then we went, and we were planning not to do any movie or anything for security reasons. But we got there, we thought that we're gonna meet a movie director who spent...
You thought Steven Spielberg was coming?
No, like I thought like a movie director who spent 50 years doing movies. And then we had Matt, and then we watched the trailer of his last documentary, Cartel Land, and after that we said, oh wow, he's professional. So it took us like a couple of days to talk to discuss to either to do the movie or not, and the security issue was the main thing. But in the same time, we knew that making this documentary will help us to get our message out, to educate our people, like thousands and even millions of people around the world about what's going on in Syria and Raqqa. So, and that was one of the main reasons why we started our organization. So we decided that we will make this movie even if it will increase the level of risk.
And Matt, for you, obviously, are there ethical questions like that you, when you expose them further, you tell their story, but you also expose them to further danger. So how did you navigate those concerns as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, their safety was paramount at every step along the way. And I think from the very beginning, from those first conversations, as Aziz said, I was very forthright with two things. One, the type of films that I want to make, the type of film that I wanted to make. I wanted to make a very intimate film, and that would require being with them for not weeks, not days, but for months, and the ramifications of what that meant, but also the ramifications of now that the film is being released publicly, that inevitably their threat profile will increase. And, are you okay with that? And I think, Aziz and his colleagues wanted to come out from behind the veneer of social media. Aziz was already sort of the face of the group, but the other guys weren't known. And so I think they wanted to show that they're moderate Muslim men, that they're, real guys from Raqqa. They're not avatars. And that, they wanted their faces and their story to be told despite the risk.
Obviously, Matt, security had to shape, in a paramount sense, what you did, looking out for these guys. So how did it influence the making of this film and the editing in particular, having that uppermost in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete different experience than my last film, Cartel Land, where I was completely, I was on the front lines of this, quote unquote battle between these vigilantes and the Mexican drug cartels, and I was very much out in the open, very much in physical danger, very much, in shootouts and meth labs and torture chambers. With this film, the sort of fear and the experience was much different. I was, for the most part, boxed in these safe houses, and with these guys who spent most of their time behind computers and cell phones. And so I think it was the hardest thing for me, or I guess two things. I guess first, just the logistics of filming, the sort of how, when, and where. The producing side of it was very, very hard, just because they were, in different places. They didn't necessarily want to communicate. We had to communicate through encrypted means. And so just the logistics of getting there and being there was quite difficult. But then once I was there, it was also quite difficult to try to find the drama in the cinema with what, for the most part, was just people sitting around. And so, that was the most difficult thing as someone who's both directing and shooting, producing this, was trying to really capture the humanity in the cinema and the drama with these very constrained situations.
But the claustrophobia was part of the story, no?
Claustrophobia was absolutely part of the story.
Aziz, what do you hope the impact of this movie is going to be?
Yes, like to get the people know, or like be aware about what's going on in Syria. So many people, they've been saying that ISIS is far away, it's in Syria and Iraq, but ISIS has been everywhere, like with the attacks in Europe and US. So to aware them about what's going on in Raqqa, specifically in Syria in general, like to tell the story of Raqqa people. So millions of people who are living there, and they were like voiceless, and we decided to be their voice. So many people, they had an idea that all the Syrians, all the people of Raqqa are terrorists, but we are not. So we didn't decide that we want to have ISIS. They came and they occupied our country, our city. So we wanted to show the reality of what's going on. So to let the people understand what's going on, to let them like share the words with their friends, their relatives, and then at least like we'll be able to have education between the people, because all the problems around the world is because of the loss of the education. So having people educated about what's going on, it will help us, and it will help everyone to get out from all these troubles and conflict problems. Maybe one word would change something, maybe from mouth to mouth, from person to person, it will get like to some governments, power leaders, politicians, who will be able to do a real change and stop this conflict.
And one last thing I'll say about that, I mean, I think for me, the film is also an homage to journalism, an homage to people who are out there fighting for the truth and seeking the truth, especially in this world where truth seems to be malleable. I think it's so important, and we are relying as citizens on more and more on people like Aziz who are shedding light on dark corners of the world. So I hope that if you all believe in what they're doing, if audiences believe in what they're doing, that they support groups like Aziz, support groups like the Committee to Protect Journalists, who are advocating and fighting for citizens around the world who are, again, shedding light on places that we would have otherwise no idea what's happening.
Won't you please thank Abdalaziz Alhamza and Matt Heineman.